Welcome back to Bread and Butter, everybody. We serve up the basics the Hearthstone player needs for improvement. Today, Doc will not be with us. He's not feeling well, but we have a very special guest to join us, and I'd like to introduce you to WorldEight. WorldEight, how are you tonight?
We're good. We're good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for acting. So, what have you been doing in Hearthstone lately?
Climbing ladder. This is, I would say, maybe my favorite week of the year in Hearthstone. They call it the Franken meta, where a whole bunch of cards are about to go into wild, so they do a whole bunch of reverts to those nerfed cards. I am enjoying a deck that I built back in March of the Lich King, which got kind of sideswiped by unrelated nerfs to the deck I was running with Forsaken Lieutenant and climbing ladder with it quite a bit. Sitting at 15 right now, which is a PR for me. So doing pretty well there.
So you are ranked 15 in NA right now out of everybody.
Yeah, NA standard, rank 15. So that's a pretty huge accomplishment for me.
Well, where do you usually finish?
Usually in the, let's say like 800s, something like that. I've dipped my toes in, double digits before, but I've never, never gotten this close to, what I call the first page.
No, definitely. That is very good. Now you are part of the Coin Concede Discord along with myself, and we have an entire channel based on season goals. And it's been, I think, very active over the last few months with a lot of us, including yourself, that have been really working hard towards improvement. It's been a lot of fun kind of rooting each other along and pushing each other along. And I played the deck. You gave me this deck, I believe, a few days ago. And this deck is the Death Rattle deck that we were playing in Rogue without the Undead package, right? For the most part.
Yep. You're just getting Burning Blade Acolytes down and making huge boards and going face and finishing off the Wicked Stabs. And
yeah,
it's really tough to deal with. When you get it going, it'll have like 4 or 5 eights by turn 5. It's pretty hard to deal with.
Plus, it's not the rogue deck everyone's looking for right now. They're either looking for Thief or they're looking for Miracle Rogue. Now, if people are seeing you at the top of the ladder, I'm sure they already know it's coming. So it must be different
Oh
now
yeah,
that they're
no,
understanding.
yeah. Now that I've queued into the same people multiple times, they figured out the gig. So I was on a very good winning streak with that element of surprise, which I do not have anymore. But that's okay. I mean, I'm still doing something different. Again, the point is I enjoy this week because everything is up in the air. A lot of people are playing their favorite decks for the last time before they rotate out. Because we also have core rotation too. So you're seeing a lot of people trying to be greedy with Bran for the last time because that card doesn't really see play in Wild. It's a really fun card for a lot of people. Contraband Stash, a hugely popular card rotating out. Thief Rogue is not a good deck statistically. Like this is a deck that, if you look at stats, it's a 45% win rate. Like you're not going to win with this deck, or you're not likely to. But people love it, and so they're going to play it up until we get the new expansion, which is tomorrow at this time of recording. For me though, I love the mess of this 1 week. Last year, I was playing a Drekthar Evolved Shaman. So if you weren't in that meta, it had there was a revert to a card that basically evolved your board, the Knuckler, and it was really good with Drekthar, which recruited 2 minions. Anyway, just totally bogus deck that you could only play in that 1 week, and I loved it. I love this 1 week of just nonsense. I enjoy Wild. It's not my main format, but this week is kind of like Wild Light. Your diet standard Wild mix. It's really good. So yeah.
Well, about 2 weeks ago, about 2 months ago, I was playing a lot of the Evolve Shaman, And when the Frankenmeter came back, I said, all right, let's play a little Evolve Shaman tonight. And then I Blazing transmuted my Knoll, and my only option given to me was Knoll. Apparently it was a known issue, and they fixed it since, but that was kind of a bummer when I was all excited to get back in there, and nope, that wasn't fixed. They have that hard coded now instead of being is hard.
Yeah.
But they fixed it pretty quickly. So I will probably play a little bit more Evolve Shaman tonight. I played a couple games of it today, but it's been good. So for me, I have been playing a lot.
Yeah, what are you up to? You tell me.
I have been in a weird spot. So like I got into Legend really early this month. I came in around 197, which so last month I had my highest finish ever, and now my MMR hopefully is better. But I got in there early, and then I've kind of haven't played much the last week and a half. I have, but I've been playing some Wild. I've been doing some Battlegrounds, and I'm enjoying the game, but I'm also ready for the new expansion. So I'm apprehensive because the last 2 months, maybe 3 months, but pretty much the last few metas, I have been playing one or two decks. So I played a lot of Shagro. I played a lot of Evolve Shaman. I played the only other deck I really played within that really was the Felrel spell DH. So I've really hung my hat on sticking with decks, and I've been having fun with it. It's if it was something that was really getting to me, I would have switched. But I've had having fun. I've been learning the decks. I even feel like I had over 600 games with the aggro priest list, but I still don't feel like I have the deck completely understood, because I'll get there and I'll be like, all right, I have 2 lieutenants here. Do I keep one? Do I mulligan one? What do I do against that? It feels like no matter how much you play, every matchup and every hand is a different opportunity for learning, and it's those decisions that you make, especially in the mulligan, that make, I think, such a huge difference from being a legend player and being a high legend player. It's like those decisions, and you can probably speak to it obviously more than I can, are really what kind of help propel you into a higher bracket.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've proven yourself to be a great player. Being an 11x is no joke. It took me, I started taking Hearthstone a bit seriously about a year ago, and from that point on, it took me 4 to 6 months before I got to 11x, right? And this is like, I am not like, all the time every day, but, I was putting effort into getting to Legend, and then 3 months later, I finally squeaked into 11x, and then I was out of it for 2 more months, right? And it is quite the accomplishment. You should be proud of yourself. I know that a few other players on that other Discord, the Queen Could See Discord, were working all together. It felt like a team effort. Everybody was trying to get under the top 1,000 finish this last month, particularly. I'm not sure why, but everyone kind of rallied. It was awesome to see. I think it's content creators like yourself help a lot for learning. It's really useful to watch both the very high level players watch their decision making, but it's worth watching people who aren't those high level players that are playing at ranks that are more appropriate to whatever if you're watching it, whatever your rank is, that's a good level to watch as well, because you see people make mistakes, and high level players don't make mistakes very frequently, maybe once every stream or something, right? But you'll see on other, let's say, more average streamers, they'll constantly make mistakes, and it's reassuring to know that they're just humans out there. They're playing the game, and I've learned an enormous amount from watching streamers, and that's I'm very grateful that we have content creators out there doing it.
It's interesting you say that too, the way you were talking about the different levels, because like if you watch someone say like Big Bannerface, they're just going to be saying the right play right here is to do X, Y, and Z, and they do it and they win and whatever, and it makes sense. Whereas someone a little bit lower, like if you watch like Wicked did, he'll say, well, I think this is the play here, and he'll talk through it, and you'll be like, well, I thought about this, and
Mm.
then he'll also kind of like, well, I thought about this, but this is the reasons why I do that. This is the reasons I don't do that, and sometimes you're right, sometimes he's right, and it's definitely there's a lot of opportunity for learning there, and it's a lot of fun. So I couldn't agree more. But we'll talk more about your climb shortly. But what have you been doing outside of the game of Hearthstone?
My spouse and I, we took our two boys and my mother-in-law to Florida. We went to Busch Gardens, which is, about 2.5 hours away from Disney World. So this was not a Disney World trip. This was a next to Disney World trip. But my son, who is 5, has his spring break from kindergarten. And it aligned the way that it worked out. No one else was down there. It was beautiful to be in warm weather coming from Northeast where we just hit this bit of a cold spike. And on top of that, it's awesome to go to an amusement park and just walk on the rides. Like you see you go through the I forget what they call the waiting lines, right? But you just walk by it. I've been to so many amusement parks where it's a 2-hour wait, and just to walk up to the ride, oh, that's a joy in itself, much less the ride. But yeah, that was a pretty big thing that we just did recently. So that was a fun trip, and yeah, I mean, I would recommend going to an amusement park when there's no one there if you can.
That's fair. I believe the last time I went to Busch Gardens was 1980.
Wow. Okay.
I believe I was in kindergarten or first grade at the time, so yeah, it's been a long, long time. And for myself, I went to see the Mario movie with my kid this weekend. It's not a good movie.
Nice.
It's not a good movie. It's fun.
Oh no.
No, don't get me wrong. It's an enjoyable movie to watch. I very much liked it. It was fun for my kid. Absolutely loved it. In fact, the only thing he said he gave it a 7 out of 10, but only because it was not long enough for him. Otherwise, it was a million out of 10. It is nostalgic. It is fun. It is goofy. It's not a good movie. Like, so don't go in there expecting to be like, oh, I hope they really like tell a good, compelling story here. They don't, but it's enjoyable to watch. It's a fun hour-and-a-half romp. We did the Easter
Good.
hunt. We did the Easter egg hunt this weekend. So we brought my kid. He's gonna be 9. He's just at the edge where he's got like another year or two, and then he starts kind of getting out of that kind of thing. We do this Easter egg hunt where we go. It's an official event where you pay tickets and they have all kinds of booths from all different things, and then there's an Easter egg hunt. And you get the Easter egg hunt. You think you'd try to find Easter eggs, but it's really just inside the sports complex. And you walk in and you turn the corner, and there's just eggs everywhere. There's no hunting. It's just go take your 12 eggs. And that's kind of disappointing to me. I'm like, you got to hunt a little bit. But it's just, you go in, you take 12 eggs, and you leave. Yeah, it's just like, we paid money for this. But, it is what it is. So, let's talk about you. Because this is, if I understand, this is the first time you've been on a podcast, right? So,
That's correct.
and you're not a streamer yet, correct?
No, I'm not a streamer.
Is that something that's in the cards for you?
I'm so inconsistent from when I play that I would be one of those streamers that would pop on and just be like, I'm live, but I wouldn't try to garner a following. I probably would just, if anything, just stream while I play. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy spectating in the game itself a lot. And I enjoy it when people spectate me. I've got actually a pretty curated friends list, and I think that's a pretty cool experience. Especially going back and maybe it's a little bit egotistical, but now I'm playing against streamers on their streams, right? And so the next day I'll go back and be like, well, I want to see my game from their perspective. And I really enjoy that. So I think I would probably enjoy streaming, but I don't have the setup for it. Right now I don't have the voice for it.
No. See, Don't even talk to me about not having the voice for this. I do podcasting, I do streaming, and I do not have a voice that is made for any of that. And I also have a face that was made for radio. So, no, if it's something you wanted to do and you just got out there and you get out there and you start streaming and then someone starts talking to you and like you start talking to your game, even if it's just one person. Like I have a few regulars that are in my chat all the time, and it's just really starts to build up that desire to be online and just, oh, I'm going to play anyway. So you fire up the stream and you get people to talk to all the time, and it's a lot of fun. So if you're considering it, like, don't worry about making a schedule. Don't worry about making it. Don't worry about getting the best equipment. Just get out there, go live, and start playing Hearthstone and see if you like it. And you never know.
Yeah, cool. Maybe I will.
All right. So what are you doing when you're not playing Hearthstone?
Oh, well, I've got my own company. I do consulting work. So that allows me a lot of flexibility for jumping in and out of games, which is nice. I have two young kids. One of them who is 5, who I mentioned before, and the other one who is 6 months old. So for the last 6 months, I've kind of had my hands full with having a little one around the house. But we're looking forward to the summer. My wife is, as she self-proclaimed, type A, so she keeps our calendar very busy with all kinds of family stuff for weekends. So it's pretty typical life. Other than I enjoy the flexibility of being able to jump on a game at 10:45 in the morning because I'm between calls or something like that. That flexibility is super nice that not a lot of people get to enjoy. But yeah.
I can't say I don't ever drop on a game when I'm in a meeting that I don't really have to pay that much attention to. I'll have the battleground under the window or something like that. I usually try to play like Wild, or I'll try to play Battlegrounds or something that I don't have to focus on, or if something that I get pulled away from. I don't care too much if I lose, but at the same point, if it's the climbing, whatever.
Yeah, I hear that. I would contend that Battlegrounds is tricky because if you do well and you're not shooting for top 4, it can take a long time to finish a Battlegrounds game. And I love the mode, but it's like sometimes I sit down like, if I commit to this Battlegrounds game, am I ready to commit for 40 minutes to get to top place? No, probably not.
It's also very easy to forget that you've not taken a turn or two when you get distracted by something if you're working on it. So you go back to like, oh, I've missed 2 turns. I guess I'm done with this game.
Yeah. The kind of decks I enjoy in Wild are the games are over by turn 5. So
yeah, I like the scammy decks. I like the scam rogue. I like I play I got a deck from Marky Mark there that was a Highkeeper Raw rogue that's actually moderately consistent, and most people don't see Highkeeper Raw coming.
nope. And that's the great thing about Wild. It's all kinds of stuff, and it's there's definitely tier 1 decks that'll punish you in that format, but that tier 2 list is very, very long.
Yes.
Which is nice. You can have a winning list with a lot of real good creativity there. I was actually playing at pretty high ranks of Legend, and I ran into somebody playing a Proving Grounds Demon Hunter deck. And what they did is that they used Dispose of Evidence to get Mechathune, and I forget it's like some kind of poisonous beast or something, right? And then they were Proving Grounds the 2 at the final turn to blow them up and win the game. And this was a high level Legend in Wild. Like, you just see all kinds of crazy stuff. So I like that format quite a bit.
Oh, it'll be interesting. We're supposed to be getting a either tweak to the format or a new format or something, I believe, in the second expansion of this year. So looking forward to that. Now, how did you get started in
you're
gaming?
absolutely right.
How did you get started in gaming, and how did you find your way into Hearthstone?
Well, I think, for me, I was the kid at I'm old enough to have gone to Blockbusters, and there was, video game consoles at the store there, and, you could just try it out, and not too long later, I was asking for that for Christmas from my parents, and they got one for me after about a year of asking for it. And I was pretty hooked for a while. Then it was a nice thing that I could do on my own. Um, and then in terms of Hearthstone, I got really into Magic: The Gathering when I was a teenager. I was right there, not I would say at the conception of it, but I was there pretty early on. Like my teenage years collided right when it like spiked in popularity, and that just hit this terrific creativity, competitive, you know, a little bit of an addictive quality to it. And I've enjoyed collectible card games since. And then Hearthstone came along for me about 10 years later, and it was something I could play on the iPad late at night. I could just boot up a game. Like I was in the very early, like right after the beta or something, and I played that for like really on and off, like really just like maybe once a week. I'd do like an arena game, um, and then I put it down for a long time. But I think I picked it up again during the pandemic, like a lot of people, kind of reaching for the BattleNet client and being like, "Oh, I played World of Warcraft. That seems like too much, man. What's this other? Oh yeah, Hearthstone. That seems like a fun game that I remember." Um, and that's how I got to it.
Fair enough. So, as we talked about before, you've recently been pushing into the top 100 legend, apparently in the top 20 legend now. Was this something? Was it something you were really setting out to doing? Was it an accident? How did you go from being a really good Hearthstone player to becoming a great Hearthstone player?
Well, thank you for the compliment. I don't consider myself a great Hearthstone player quite yet. Um, but it's in terms of the ladder climb, I think we all try to push ourselves as far as we can. When we get on the ladder, typically it's because we want to win the game. Uh, we want to have fun, but winning is fun. And so I'd say if you're out there climbing the ladder, you want to win, and you take whatever advantage you can when you get there. For me, though, personally, I had a push last month with Enrage Warrior because I kind of wanted to make a point. I wanted to make a point that this deck is good and it's good enough to get to top 100 with, and I did it. And it was a deck that I put a lot of games into, um, and I tracked all those games. I analyzed my replays, and I really took that deck and I curated it and I mastered it as far as that particular build went. And I pushed it to 100, and that was my goal. My goal was to get like that on Hearthstone decks. I did that. I felt very accomplished, and then I pushed on Vicious Syndicate for that to be the Enrage list, and it is currently the Enrage list if you go on that site right now, and that was a huge accomplishment for me. But I had to have some kind of goal, like notable rank, for those two things to happen. Those two kind of side goals. Like I'm not looking to get Master Tour points or things like that. Um, Maybe a little bit of bragging rights for my own, record, but for at least for the Enrage push, it was to get that deck on the map. And now I can look on the Hearthstone replay site, and I can see that deck. I played maybe 200, 300 games of that. Now there's thousands of games that people have net decked that deck, that particular build, with all my little tweaks and stuff. And that's really cool for me. Um, this month, I'm not sure. I wanted to play this deck that I'm playing right now again. This is a deck I built. It's powerful, and I wasn't trying to make a point. I just hit a really good winning streak. From the time I entered Legend. I entered Legend at like 400 or something, which is not bad. It's fine. And I just was like, I'm picking this deck up, and over the course of the week, I think I've gone something like 56-5. Like it's been an insane run with this deck. So yeah, I mean, I think that's it's always good to push yourself, and I think yeah, I there's not much to it other than for me, I like proving a point sometimes too.
Now, when you won the Coin Concede Listener Series, were you also proving a point? Tell us about that. That seemed like that was a lot of fun. It was nice to see you pull off that victory.
Oh yeah. Well, the Coin Concede tournament was a lot of fun. I hope for everybody. It was my first time doing a tournament, and I was ecstatic to make it all the way to the top eight, much less win it. You can't see it if you watch the video replay, because I was trying to keep my cool, maybe to a dangerous degree. But
You had the eye of the tiger.
it's yeah, it was also one of those things. You could tuck it under your belt and maybe not hang it on the wall at your house, but you did it, and it's pretty cool. Even if it was a smallish tournament. I think it was like 30 people, something like that. But it was fun, and um, I think it's also really important that within that is a community, right? There's a community of all these people talking online, watching each other, encouraging each other, being like, when you say good game, you really mean good game. Because this is somebody you've talked to and chatted with about this game overall a lot, but that particular game you can go back and chat. And so that made it a really positive experience, I hope, for everybody.
Yeah, that's been one of the interesting things. Like we talked about, we have the kind of a couple different chats going on and the Coin Concede. One about season goals. I've also involved in another one with the Shagro priest, and it's been great that we were all kind of improving, and now we're all kind of bumping into each other at higher levels of legend, and chatting with each other after the game. Be like, oh, I can't believe you had that mulligan, and I got really stuck here. It's been a lot of fun to actually have those interactions with people more and more after the game, and I think a lot of that is just building our community, and it's been really enjoyable. But you said earlier that you're not making a push for Masters Tour, but is that something that's completely out of sight for you? Is there any kind of maybe I should think about it, or
No, I don't have the time. They just made it. If they had the old format of, like kind of a, you put your hat in the ring and then you compete, and after, 10 rounds of Swiss or whatever, like top 16 make it. Like this ladder competition points, I don't have time for that.
no?
Um, I'm doing well,
That's
but
fair.
it's way too much of a grind.
Um, all right, I think we're having a little bit of the internet issues. You said you had warned us about a little earlier on.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. It happens. I marked it so I can take a look and just validate if we need to cut anything. So, do you consider? I know you're saying you're playing the rogue right now. Do you consider yourself a warrior main? Because I know we talked about that quite a bit, and you really put your staple into the enrage warrior. And we're here to talk about warrior today. But do you consider yourself a warrior main, or do you consider yourself an all-around player? What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
For anyone listening to this, there is a graph that floats around that says, are you an aggro player? Are you a control player? Are you a combo player? Right? And it's this triangle. And in between those points are like kind of subcategories. So for me, I'm what's an aggro combo kind of like player. Like that is my jam. I want to be proactive, but I want to have the ability to just be like, game is over, snap. Like it's done because I pulled off my little combo. Um, Naga Priest was absolutely my favorite deck when it was competitive because it could do that. It had this pretty aggressive game plan, but then you could just blow out a game from nowhere, and I loved that part of it. So not really a warrior main. I just picked Enrage Warrior because it has that kind of snowball, that effect that I really found appealing with Naga Priest. And I think I also found it a darling in that like it was just the runt of the litter. It was a decent deck. No one cared about it. And I was like, okay. And I just got involved with caring about it. And even if it wasn't the best deck, it was good enough for me.
Well, good enough for you and Enzo. Enzo really also kind of helped you with
Yeah. Oh, there's dozens of us, dozens.
that. Okay, Tobias. Um, so, what is something people might find surprising about you? Doesn't have to be personal. Doesn't have to be anything. It can be something silly or stupid. But what's something that people would be kind of surprised to learn about you?
Um, I don't know if it's too surprising. Uh, but I love pizza. I love making pizza. And my wife got me what's called an uni oven. And this uni oven is an outdoor pizza oven, and it cooks pizza at about 800 degrees. And I love that thing, but I hate that thing at the same time because it'll cook a pizza in a minute, and I'm talking like down to like the 5 seconds. And so I don't know. I have a whole like catalog of burnt pizzas that my wife likes to show to anybody who cares. Um, I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Is I just keep going at it with these burnt pizzas.
Oh, hey, nothing. But I'm sure some of them come out pretty good, right?
Oh yeah, when they come out good, they come out amazing. That's why you keep going for it.
Nice. So pineapples on pizzas. Are you for or against?
No, 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 no. Absolutely never a pineapple on a pizza. Are you kidding me?
I'll have to. We'll have to agree to disagree on that because I think the pineapple. As long as you can't be just pineapple by itself or something, it has to be there with the bacon or it has to be there with the ham, and that sweet and salty have to work together. Otherwise, I agree. But it's always interesting the hills people die on. But anyway, let's get to our main topic today, and we're here to talk about the state of Warrior going into the next expansion.
Great.
We could talk about all the classes and the cards and everything on the expansion, but you have Coin Concede for that. You have Tack for that. You don't have Blizzlet and Squelch for that because they're not going to really talk about it anyway. But you have the other podcast for that. We're here to talk about something that has been dominating the internet, I'd say, for the last month or so, is the state of Warrior. Because a lot of people have seen the cards coming out for Warrior and have not been happy. We've also heard that like you said, you took this deck and you tried to prove that, hey, Warrior is actually good. This deck especially is actually good. And we even heard Cora come on The Angry Chicken and talk about how they're not happy with the status of Warrior. They want to kind of reinvent it. And that's happening this year. I don't know if that means that it's happening this year to go into 2024, or if we're going to see that in the next couple expansions, because they do work quite a bit ahead. So, with all this discourse that's been going around, we got these theory crafting streams last week, and Warrior seemed okay. So, what do you think about the state of Warrior going into the next expansion, just at a very high level?
At a high level, I think Warrior's going to be fine. I think they gave themselves a lot of knobs and buttons to dial in. We kind of have to put everything in context, right? Like we get these reveals, and people are very disappointed by the numbers on the cards. That's something they can change. I thought the flavor for Warrior was actually pretty great. Like I love the concept of the rifts, in particular for this expansion. And I love the roaring applause kind of idea for it. And for this one particular expansion, they do a lot of themes for one particular expansion. They have support just for that one. And in terms of power level, I think it's going to be okay. Um, but for me, flavor is a lot of it too. Because if you look at the past, they had the Abyssal Curse package. It was too weak. They nudged the numbers and it became very competitive. The Relic package, they nudged the numbers, it became very competitive because this is something that people wanted to play. I think people really want to play the Rifts. I think people really want to play Control Warrior. It's a play style that a lot of people come to Warrior and expect to play Control Warrior. They want that experience, and they don't want to play Control Priest. They don't want to play Control Warlock. There's something very different to them about the Warrior experience that I think probably for a lot of players is they played Control Warrior in like the classic Hearthstone sense. Like that is, if you go into classic, that's a deck that you play is Control Warrior. And it wasn't really that long ago. From the Depths is less than a year old as of today, right? Like it was Control Warrior was a strong deck within the 2022 year. So strong they nerfed 5 cards. That power level is still there. They only changed one card, and so the numbers on the cards can matter a lot. And for me, it's also, it's everyone keeps saying is Warrior in a good place. It's a moving target to be in a good place. Um, I think there's a lot of like we talk about other classes if they're in a good place or not. Um, like I think that Warriors in it's the squeaky wheel in a sense too. That again they have all of the dials that they can tweak to make it competitive. So and they know that people want to play it. So I think it'll be good. I have confidence. Maybe not right on release. I think it'll surprise people with how good it is on release. I think it'll be just fine. But again, they have a lot of room for nudging things around that they know that it's an issue. Like you said, Cora mentioned it. So they'll keep an eye on it.
I agree with you on the comparison for the relics, as it were, for the rifts. And they had to tweak the relics a little bit, and then once they made a slight nudge to, I believe, three of the cards, the location, the extinctions, and the dimensions, it all kind of took off. Now, the one thing I don't think matches up with that is the relics scaled, where the rifts don't. So it's not like they continue to get powerful, and the order you should play them are going to matter as well because it doesn't concurrently play every rift that you play. It only plays the previous rift that you played. So
Yeah. So going into rifts, we have to be. I tend to give the team a little bit more credit than most because they only have so many people on the team and they can only play test so much. They play tested the riffs with it doing every single riff on the finale. Right, this was the initial design, was that you played the riff and then it plays all of the last riffs. Like that is a very powerful scaling thing, and it was too powerful. And so I was not in the room when they made that design decision, but it seems very much like a last minute, like we are tuning this back to just be the last one. And they did that with the curse package too. They explicitly said that when they released it. They're like, we know this looks weak. It was way too powerful in grievance when we were playtesting it. And they miss stuff all the time. In terms of playtesting, there's only so many hours. And then you release this expansion to the Hearthstone community. By the end of this week, there's going to be 1 million games played. How many games do you think these employees who have a lot of things to do other than play test the card game, like actual bug reports and things like that, they can't put 1 million games in a week. They're gonna put a few hundred, maybe, right, to see the power level of these cards. And so as a designer, you kind of have to go through gut a lot, and they miss things,
absolutely.
a lot of things. Yeah. Um, yeah, so I think the rifts are an obvious point where they can nudge them, and they have a lot of dials of numbers where they can nudge them.
But the rifts are a package; they're not a deck. So, what kind of decks are we looking at early in this expansion for Warrior?
Great question. I think we're going to see a lot of people try and control Warrior again. Like every expansion, they're going to try it again, and the question is it good enough? I don't think that the traditional sense of control warrior of sit there do nothing is going to ever be good enough again. I think once we got to Nathria and everyone realized that a big minion pile will just plow through any control deck if you can't finish the game, that's going to be the case for anyone who builds a super conservative warrior deck. I think that if people build the Trench Stalker deck, the Black Rock and Roll deck, right? Like, and you're using that to finish the game. Like, you play a Black Rock and Roll, to me, that's a Mithril Rod. That is you better finish like, you see that Mithril Rod hit the table right now in Standard, you know you've got a 2-turn clock to kill them before you get bombed away. It's going to be the same thing with Black Rock and Roll. And the rifts are going to be, they're either going to be part of that deck or they're not. I don't see them being part of an aggressive deck. Just not enough going on there for, not enough proactive things. But, if we use the rifts as a way to cultivate a very small minion pool, something like that, that's where their potential is.
Now you say I've heard good things about Black and Rock and Roll coming out of the theory crafting stream, but it seems like anytime we've ever had an effect like that, Lady in White comes to mind. We had one this expansion that was what was a 7/7 double the minion stats in your deck. Those never
Right,
seem to,
Orthamar.
yeah, Lothamar. Those seem to never pan out. They always seem to you're doing a turn one to really do nothing. I mean, in this case, they have bodies to them, but those always sound like they're going to work out pretty well, and they end up not. So, what makes you think that this Black Rock and Roll is going to be different?
I think for me personally, I think it's just such a massive boost that again, it's going to end games that otherwise would have dragged on. And the other card that I have a lot of faith in is Last Stand, right? You play Black Rock and Roll, now you can tutor those big minions. You can pull them out of your deck immediately. The problem with Lady in White, Lorthamar, right? You've done this big deck buff. How do you get those cards buffed back into your hand, and how do you start playing with them immediately? We also have Sir Finley, swaps the hand, right? That'll help a lot. But you're right. I mean, we had Snapdragon released. It was a little baby buff to everything in your deck. It was not good enough. But this is a huge effect. This is a very, very significant buff to a lot of charge minions in particular. If we're talking about warrior class identity at all, charge is going to be one of them, right? And if you put big stats on charge stuff, it starts to matter. Plus, you could run this alongside Lorthamar, right? Like, there's a redundancy there. Yeah, if you do both, great. But if you do one or the other, now you've got basically a card and a copy of that card. It's a two-card thing. It's a little bit more reliable. And as for the effect that you're looking for, so I think you're going to see some pretty big, scary minions coming out of Warrior that are going to put you on a pretty quick clock if you can't deal with them. And then that deck just keeps spitting them out.
And it's going to be nice to have Ramonia in that as well. I think a lot of people are looking forward to a very big sword that also rushes at their opponent. All right, so
right, again, going back to the charge idea of it, right? Like Trenchstalker, Ramornia, Olgra, these are all charge-ish minions.
all right, so aside from the Black Rock and Roll, what other decks do you think that are going to be out there that people are going to want to try early on and be successful with?
I think the Menagerie is underrated right now, especially if you put a lot of emphasis on the mechs coming from the core set. There's quite a bit of hand buffing that is available to Warrior with Party Animal. You could potentially I think you could put Anima Extractor in a Menagerie deck and do just fine with that. That card is really powerful on its own. And those decks don't really look great, but what Roaring Applause does is it lets you draw a lot of cards, and that is something that aggressive decks kind of need. I mean, Impending Catastrophe for Warrior is a big deal for aggro. It's also really incredible with Voon. I think Voon is really underrated to duplicate your Zillax, to duplicate your one-man amalgam band, which someone started calling Weird Al, and I just love that nickname for that card.
That's good.
You duplicate those cards, and like, okay, maybe get a little bit of value, but like a duplicated Weird Al is two of those is that's gonna end games there too.
That looks like a lot of fun. So you don't think Control Warrior is going to be the thing?
I think a more proactive Control Warrior. So if we look right now at what Standard was like for the last 6 months, let's say, you had the Abyssal Curse package. It never existed on its own. It existed with the Imp front end. I think that's where we're going to see the Warrior, like anybody who wants to play Control Warrior, they're going to do something like that. They're going to end up doing this good, tempo stuff in the front, control stuff in the back. I think that's going to be a more successful strategy.
So can we call that Mullet Warrior?
Sure. Yeah, that's great.
All right, so we've talked a bit about Cora talking about Warrior on the Angry Chicken, that they want to redefine the kind of what Warrior is, what it does. I feel like the hero power is a big issue because they seem to take all the armor stuff that's interesting and give it to Druid. A lot of the minions they've been given to Druid, like Nubricon, like why is that not a Warrior minion? It seems to be counterproductive. But she says they're looking to redesign here. Are we seeing signs of that here? And what do you think Warriors' biggest overall issues are long term?
I agree with you completely. I feel like the Anubercon package felt very much like a we took it from Warrior. And the hero power, they just took a look at the priest hero power, said this is not good enough, and they did made a new mechanic out of it. Warrior's in a little bit of a trickier position. I would say Warrior has basically three traditional identities, right? Armor is one of it, tied into the armor up ability, and those cards have not really worked outside of Galvanger. He's the like Galvanger was really the only card that cared about like how much armor you gained was important. If you play duels, one of the heroes in duels is his basically instead of armor up, it says if you have armor, put a bomb in your opponent's deck. So you care about armor then too. But it's kind of like corpses in the better Death Knight decks, where it's like the less you care about this resource, the better. And so you're not explicitly playing the cards in those Death Knight decks that are like you need, like Corpse Bride, like you need these corpses to do something. No, you're just kind of playing cards that are incidental to that, and that's where Warrior is struggling with armor as a resource. You still have Shield Slam, very powerful card, but you need that build up, and it's just really hard to keep that armor up. Um, the second identity is kind of the Enrage identity, right? And that was not supported at all in this expansion. So the first one, armoring, not really supported except for the one drop and the weapon, and then Enrage, not supported at all in any way. And the third identity is weapons. So weapons were kind of supported here in this expansion in a few ways. But the challenge with Warrior is that it feels like it's kind of like sitting, sharing its toys with everybody. It's not having anything really unique to its own, you know, other than the riffs, right? Like that's why wanted the riffs to be really strong, because if that worked out well, that was a good identity for Warrior for this expansion. A little disappointing because if you build that Menagerie deck, it's going to be a lot of neutrals. The whole deck is almost like it's like 24 neutrals and then like 6 Warrior cards. That doesn't really feel like a Warrior class identity deck. So with regards to did they find an identity for Warrior? No, I don't think they did. Is Warrior going to be in a good state? Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I'm
So,
hoping that they. Yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that they do something really creative with it. Um, I have an idea in mind, but I don't think they're gonna do it. Um, but yeah, I think the hero power is a big issue.
Well, so speaking of your big idea, if you were hired by Team Five as a consultant to fix Warrior over the next year, how would you do it?
I would make weapons matter a little bit more, and I know they've tried that in the past, but I would let Warrior do wield. I think that would be really cool. Um, or maybe even like a sword and board, so you have a weapon and you have some kind
A
of
shield.
shield, right? Like you give, or maybe you still have the Warrior that does the Arcanite Reaper, like that's taking up 2 weapon slots. If you gave Warrior 2 weapon slots, I think that could add a lot. I think that'd be a really interesting design space for the class to be like, am I going really aggressive here? Do I have two little weapons? Do I have a weapon and a shield? That kind of thing. And if I do I make my shield really important? Um, that's what I would do.
That'd be
And
interesting. Like, what would you do though? Would they have to like maybe would it have to work like multi strike where you can attack the same target twice, or because like you equip 2 Doom Howls and you go right face or whatever? Is that good? Is that healthy? I almost think that you'd have to mitigate that in some way in order to make it fair. on some level.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a wild idea, right? And but you know, it would at least spark some discussion amongst the designers. Like, how would we do this? Like, how do we take armor up and instead of making it an armor focused, like we make that ability weapon focused? Um, because I think, you know, for me, one like a really iconic warrior card that they recently released and never saw any play was Hit It Very Hard, right? 1 mana plus 10 attack, can't attack heroes. Like that is just like a I'm gonna smash you with my face because that's what it's just like terrific flavor. Um, and so you can have your weapon and with you know the outriders actually could use that to like kill something, draw a card, blah blah. But it was I don't know, for me that's a lot of things that's Warriors doing all at once, right? The weapon matters in that case. The making sure you have enough armor to take it, that damage from that minion matters in that case. The I do want to take some damage, you know, enrage myself kind of case. Like that card, very simple, great flavor. Um, we don't need more of those. Never saw it play. Uh, but you know, I think that's good like class identity right there in that one card.
What if they were to do something like a Dark Bishop Benedictus style card for Warrior that if you have some condition met, your hero power changes if you include this card? Like, what would that
Yeah.
hero power? What could that hero power be? I was thinking something along the lines of a mini bloodlust, where you get like battle shout, which I know is a card. You'd have to name it something different, but it would give like all your minions +1 attack for the hero power.
So you can look to duels for you want some good ideas for hero powers, creative hero powers. I mean, if you go to duels right now, they have 3 different hero powers that they could pick from, right? That are all pretty solid. One's the bomb idea. One is the inner rage, right? Like you do 1 damage to a minion. If it dies, give it +2 attack. If it survives, give it +2 attack. If it dies, get 2 armor, and that costs 2 to use. Maybe it costs 3 to use now, but anyway, like that's you know that if you built that into it, the inner fire or inner rage, you know that would be something worth building around.
Fair enough. So, what would you say to all the doom and gloomers out there in Twitter land talking about Warrior? Should they be optimistic or pessimistic going into this next expansion?
I would say that they should be a little bit more optimistic about the state of Warrior, but they should be pessimistic about the Warrior that they're going to find. Um, I think if they want their classic control Warrior, they're not going to find it this expansion. But if they want to find a Warrior deck, there will be one.
I think it'll be a long time before we see classic control warrior. I just think that they're trying to get away, even though they seem to still give priests those tools. I think they're trying to get away from just that attrition type game style because that's really not fun, an engaging game for the players that are playing against it.
Right.
But well, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get a little full. Why don't we head on over to dessert?
Sure.
WorldEight, where can people find you if they're looking to engage with you more?
I don't really do much social media. I do have a Twitter account that I very occasionally use, WorldEight_HS. And after this, maybe I'll make a Twitch page. Who knows? But bit of a lurker right now.
If you do start up a Twitch page, let us know. We will make sure we promote it here on the show. You can find Doc McButt at Doc McButt on Twitter. You can find me at Tito Santana HS on Twitter and Twitch. And I stream most nights between 9 and 12 Eastern. If you've enjoyed the show in general, if you would like to give us a 5-star review, that'll help more people find the show and keep us moving. We'd like to have more people hang out and listen to us. Hopefully you find it engaging. And yeah, so WorldEight, anybody you'd like to shout out tonight? Or anybody you'd like to thank or acknowledge?
Well, thank you for having me on tonight. It's been a privilege. But I also want to give a big shout out to that Coin Conceit crew of people that have just been very supportive and coalesced around supporting each other. I think that was really awesome to see any kind of community get together. I'm part of other Discords that aren't as supportive of each other, even if they're competitive Hearthstone players. So shout out to everybody there who's who's over there like patting each other on the back and giving good advice.
Yeah, I would second that. If you are looking for a community to start talking with in order to improve your Hearthstone game, or even just talk Hearthstone, even if you are a Gold 5 player that just enjoys playing the game and you want to have some discourse about it, Coin Concede Discord is the perfect place to start. Everyone there is very positive. Everyone there loves talking about Hearthstone and other things, and it is a lot of fun. So I recommend you joining there. I'd like to thank you for joining us. I know that this is, I think, is your first podcast, like we said, so I appreciate you taking that effort to figure out your audio and come on down and hang out. Want to shout out Enzo, who was going to join us tonight, but had to apparently fly a plane or something like that, do his job. I mean, can't adjust for the podcasting, but hey, what are you gonna do? I want to thank my mods, Mad at Arms and Pilot, who we had a fun game of Battlegrounds last night. We did some group Battlegrounds, and we also did some Blizzlet. If you're not part of Blizzlet, that's also a very great community. We did some game night where we did some Jackbox on Saturday night, and that was always a good time. But anyway, thanks again, World, for joining us, and look forward to seeing you continue on with your dominance of the ladder. And thanks, everybody. I think we're toast. See ya.
See ya.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.